What's up, everyone? It is David Schlotthauer here, and I am so excited to present you all another weekly update on the latest ENSO recent evaluation, current status, and predictions for April the 17th, 2023. So of course, this is a very important update on the latest ENSO alert system status, as they have now issued a El Nino watch across much of the central and eastern Pacific, as ENSO conditions are now currently being observed. But guess what? They are near to above average across most of the Pacific Ocean, which means we are beginning to see signs of El Nino trying to develop already in April. There is a 62% chance that El Nino conditions will be developing during the May and July timeframe. So perhaps by late spring into early summer, we have a pretty good chance that we're going to have El Nino going on in the central and eastern Pacific, perhaps a super El Nino as early fall of this year, which is going to really have serious, big implications on our weather pattern for the United States, including the Atlantic hurricane season that is coming up this season. So, of course, sea surface temperatures are above average right now, and we can see here at or above normal right now as of April the 15th and the 17th in this much across the Pacific here, all the way from 20 degrees east longitude all the way to 80 degrees west longitude. So across the entire Pacific, we're looking at above average sea surface temperatures. So this is the latest contribution right now of latest weekly sea surface temperature departures. And we can see in the El Nino 1+2 region right now, 2.7 Celsius. That is very significant, okay, this early in its stage of development. And there's going to be a comparison chart here in a little while after this PowerPoint of showing you that big difference. All right, El Nino 3, 0.4 Celsius above normal. So almost already looking at a weak El Nino in that region, let alone already El Nino 3.4, 0.1 Celsius above normal. El Nino 4, 0.2 degrees Celsius above normal. So all of the regions right now are running above normal just slightly, of the exception of the El Nino 1+2 region, which is again very significant. And this is basically going to be a highlight right here of what most of the basins could look like by late summer into early fall, as some of the guidance does indicate we could have a super El Nino. Yes, a super El Nino, that is, and I'll explain more on what that means in just a little bit. So sea surface departures in the tropical Pacific during the last 4 weeks have been pretty significant. A lot of warming has happened across Peru, right off the coast there of Central America, including for the far eastern Pacific between March 19th and April the 15th. So within the last 4 weeks, a lot of warming has taken place. We're going to kind of skip through this and kind of go right to this PowerPoint here. So these are subsurface sea surface temperatures just below the surface, and this is showing us, are they well above average or are they below average? So subsurface temperature anomalies were negative until June of 2022. So last summer, they were well below average before becoming briefly positive from late June 2022 to late January of 2023. Anomalies were negative from November 2022 to February 2023. Negative anomalies have significantly weakened and returned to near zero. Since then, anomalies have become positive, and I mean, look at this big warm up that has happened already since mid-February, and that's in the last couple of months, where we are now running above average. We'll see if this is actually able to go up even further as we go into summer and even into, say, fall of this year, which will likely signify a likelihood of a very strong El Nino that could develop by late summer, and then maybe a super one by fall. So positive subsurface temperatures have expanded eastward and now dominate the equatorial Pacific Ocean. So right now we can see, and I'll have another little showing on this in a little bit, But look at the change. February the 22nd, 2023 here. Here's the 4 thumbnails on the side of literally the past couple of months of what those have looked like. And below average dominated. Remember, we were finishing up our La Nina, right? Then look what all happened. Serious warming in the Eastern Pacific. And look at this now. Literally all above average. There is no below average anomalies to be seen at all. In fact, there's not one speck of blue. Maybe right here is all we have. But come on, that's literally ½ degree below average. Otherwise, the entire Pacific here is running well above normal for this time of the year below the surface of the ocean. So we are definitely looking at an El Nino. There is no chance of a La Nina or even a neutral at this point of forming. Right now we're in a neutral, but that's going to quickly change in a couple of months. So let's kind of go forward and look at this. So weekly heat content evaluation in the equatorial Pacific. We have a strong Kelvin wave that is in progress right now, going all the way from the western and now into the central Pacific. This is due to very strong slackening of the trade winds. When we get those slackening trade winds, that means we get a lot of downwelling Kelvin waves that do occur all the way in the eastern Pacific, and we're seeing one right now. So a lot weaker trade winds are in progress right now that have contributed to some serious warming in the eastern Pacific, which is why now they have went ahead and issued an El Nino watch for that reasoning. We could already see another weakening and slackening of the trade winds are in progress right now that are located roughly with those weaker than normal trade wind anomalies being represented in orange from 100 degrees east longitude all the way over to 120 degrees west longitude. And we're going to see another reversal and weakening of the trade winds by late April, as what most of the model guidance indicates. And that's going to lend high confidence that El Nino is going to really get bolstered here in the next month or so. So that's orange shading with weaker than normal trade winds, and that helps to the warm water to slosh eastward. More on that in a little while. So above average precipitation or not precipitation, but a lot of a lift in the atmosphere being represented in across the international date line, 180 degrees west longitude. And that is moving its way over into the eastern Pacific, and we might see lower than normal pressures, stronger than normal westerly wind bursts that could occur in that area. So let's kind of move forward here. Let's kind of skip this. So of course, what we talked about in last week's video on Monday, we can see 0.4 degrees Celsius below average. That is the latest update that came out literally 2 weeks ago. I'm very sure the next box that gets filled in here will have something like 0 degrees Celsius or even perhaps 0.1 Celsius above average with sea surface temperatures. It's going to go up probably by 4 to 6 points. And in other words, I'm not saying it's going to be a degree because these are 3-month mean averages, but it's going to definitely be a lot higher than the negative 0.4 that we're seeing right there. Again, these update every month, so we'll see with what the next contribution actually is. But we got something new to share with you in this video right now. There is now almost a 90% chance that El Nino will develop as early as July, August, and September. Above that, perhaps even into late fall, early winter. So there is certainty that we are going to have an El Nino. There is no chance at all of not seeing one. In fact, the chances are so high for El Nino that's why they have an El Nino watch issued this far out in time. Not only that, neutral conditions, there is only a 10% chance of neutral conditions to develop by late fall, early winter, with a 1% chance of La Nina conditions that develop by late fall and early winter. So literally no chances at all of any neutral or La Nina. In fact, some of the models are trending up, already up to about 1 degree Celsius above average by early fall and late winter of next year. And we'll look at this in a second, but look at that. Anywhere between 2 and 2.5 degrees Celsius above average with sea surface temperatures, according to the latest climate forecasting system. We'll look into more detail on that in the next few tabs that we look at here. All right, so we need to move on and look at our latest Southern Oscillation Index. This is important. This is telling us if the atmosphere is responding to El Nino or the differences in sea surface temperatures, and indeed, they are. We are already in the negative territory. We have been in the negative territory all the way since, basically, to be specific, if you really want to say negative, since March of the 27th, and we are still in the negative as of this date right now in some degree. Either it's slightly negative or it's strongly negative. Not like it was back on April the 4th, but still it is fairly negative right now. The latest contribution is right now -7 on the index, on the Southern Oscillation Index. So that is basically a air pressure difference between Darwin, Australia, so that's like the Indonesia, Indian Ocean basin, versus the Central and Eastern Pacific, which is where Tahiti is. So when you get lower than normal pressure over Tahiti, you get a negative index, with higher than normal pressure being represented in Australia and Darwin, right? Well, when you get a La Nina, the opposite kind of develops, right? You get higher than normal pressure over Tahiti and lower than normal pressure over Darwin. And when you get that, you get a strongly positive Southern Oscillation Index. So right now what I'm saying is there is lower than normal pressure developing already in the Central and Eastern Pacific. That is what's making the trade winds really weaker than average. And that's why we are seeing a lot of this warming already occur. So this is as of April the 15th. This has not updated right now. We're waiting for new updates, but hey, we'll take 2 days old here. Definitely showing with what the PowerPoint indicated that there has been a lot of warming already in this portion of the ENSO region, all the way from roughly about 130 degrees west longitude all the way over to 80 degrees west longitude. Look at these sea surface temperature anomalies here. I'm sorry I'm hyping things up a little bit, but wow, 5+ Celsius above average. In fact, there is some microplots right along the coast here that are running almost 7 and even 8 degrees Celsius above average. That is very significant, all right? That is an indication that we could have a very strong El Nino, perhaps a super El Nino by late fall, early winter, or even early fall perhaps. Something in that, in the realms of books there. So really concerned about this, that it could really impact the United States weather in a pretty horrible way as far as rainfall goes, and severe drought in other areas by winter and fall of this year. Not only that, the good news is it might put a lid on the hurricane season. Now, there have been some speculations that it might not, because we have above average sea surface temperatures in the main development region that are running 2 to almost 3 Celsius above normal. We have very warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico, but I'm very confident that there will be some implications this year just because of how quick this is developing. If we get any deep layer wind shear, a lot of Saharan dust that comes off of Africa, that could help put a lid on things. Remember, last year we had a pretty good La Nina, right? And we all thought it's going to be a very busy season. It looks like that this could be the case this year. We may have a delayed season, and we might have a below average one. And I'm still going with 8 to 12 named storms for the Atlantic hurricane season for the year 2023. So that's a look at sea surface temperatures. Let's take a look now at the comparison. So as you do know, we're going to kind of take a trip back in time to April the 15th, 1997. So we're comparing two sea surface temperature numerical charts here. Okay, so first of all, the El Nino, if you guys remember that one, right? That was a super El Nino, okay, of the 1997-1998. That brought some serious rain and flood concerns and a lot of problems in the west and also across the deep south with a lot of flooding there. So what my point here is that we're already ahead of the El Nino of 1997. Remember, there was still La Nina conditions here with weak El Nino conditions developing on this exact day of 1997, okay, ahead of that super El Nino. All right, look at where we're at now. Look at this warming, already a weak to strong El Nino. Well, strong if you are considerately looking exactly at these anomalies, but when you average things out, we're still in somewhat of a neutral to weak El Nino condition right now. So look at the comparison between these two different slides here. April the 15th, 1997, April the 15th, 2023. And look at the remarkable difference. So what I'm saying here is we're ahead of 1997, 1998. We're already ahead of 2015 to 2016 as far as El Nino goes. We're slightly ahead of 2015, in fact, only by about 1 or 2 Celsius ahead of that. So my point is, we're gonna see a strong El Nino in some regards, either 1.5 Celsius to 3 Celsius above normal in the 3-month mean average, okay? So now, as far as what does this look like as far as our equatorial subsurface temperatures? Here's an animation showing you. These are equatorial temperature anomalies in Celsius. Okay, so this is not freezing in the blue. These are departures from average. Okay, and we got buoys. We got the data where we could see these anomalies all the way down to over 1,000 feet down below the surface of the ocean, 450 meters down. And so we can see what has really happened here. All these sea surface temperatures, this warm water is sloshing. It is going this way, and we're starting to see some serious anomalies. By the way, this is 5 to 6 plus Celsius above the long-term average. I mean, that is significant. That is all the way down to 100 meters. So that is not very shallow by any means. That is quite deep, and it will take some serious trade winds for that to erode away. So even so we have slightly stronger than normal trade winds from time to time, does not mean that we're going to erase El Nino. Okay, and you can see very big warming has recently taken place here below the surface of the ocean at around 120 degrees west longitude. Now, really quickly, here's another look at it with the actual sea surface temperatures. These are actuals, these are not departures, and you can see all that warm water sloshing. Remember what we saw? Okay, is it going to refresh on us? Let's take a look at that, and it's not, but you get the idea. All this warm water here from the Western Pacific is sloshing eastward because of the relaxed trade winds, and that's leading to this formation of El Nino. Speaking of that, here is the newly updated CFS. This is initial conditions as of April the 7th through the 16th, so literally in a 1-week mean period of what the model thinks what might happen next in the El Nino 3.4 region, which is where we watch for El Nino conditions, and that will have a biggest implication on everything. So, of course, by May, we are almost a half a degree Celsius. I think we're going to get there. We're already 2 weeks away from May, and we're already warming things up nicely. So if this comes to be correct, look at where we might end up getting. The average mean model, okay? That's what this black dotted line forecast members mean, ensemble mean, okay? Definitely up there, almost 2.5 Celsius, and this is a 3-month mean, folks. Remember, 2.6 was the world's biggest El Nino ever recorded in the Eastern and Central Pacific. We are not far from that. We are really close, and in fact, some of the members exceed that. In fact, a few of the members want this to go up to 3 to 3.4 Celsius by, say, September, October, and November. Boy, if that happens, it's going to be a pretty big impact on what fall and winter will bring for the U.S. We're going to have a lot of El Nino-like conditions, lots of heavy rainfall where you don't need it. You get a lot of droughts when you don't expect it or when you don't really usually see it. So in other words, this next fall and winter could be a big stormy one for portions of the deep south, the southeast, and of course for California. And the sooner this develops, the better chances we have with seeing a below average hurricane season. And again, I'm only going with 8 to 12 named storms right now for the Atlantic Basin, with A very far above average season for the Eastern and Central Pacific. Typhoon season will be really out of control this year. So this is the late look at the latest oceanic El Nino events since 1950. And of course, we had that super Godzilla, whatever you want to put it, El Nino back in 2015 and 16. We remember that. That set all new all-time records from the 1997-98 El Nino. So the question is, could we get in the top tier of one of these two serious, significant El Nino events? That is to be determined. Right now, the particular model that we looked at does rival 1997-98, but it does not look to rival anything close to 2015 and 16 as of right now. But again, that can change with time, so make sure you stay tuned for these updates every Monday. So now, this climate forecasting system model, what does this look like as far as El Nino? Going to go through this very quickly, all right? So this is for June. Again, we have that El Nino that is in place, beginning to shape up right now. It's likely to shape up rapidly. So by late summer, by August, look at these sea surface temperature anomalies. 2.8, 2.9 Celsius above average in the Central and Eastern Pacific. Look at how big this could actually end up getting by October of 2023. And look at this. By December, a very strong warm tongue, the El Nino, the Christ boy we call it, is going to be in full swing and will impact our weather quite a bit. And when it does, you can see why that strengthens everything a lot. When we look at our upcoming winter forecast, of course, this is far out in time. The jet stream is extended, lower than normal heights across the west. We get a stronger than normal jet stream, stronger than normal storms, wetter than normal storms for much of California, the deep south, and also for the southeast. So that's why this is very important of exactly what might be coming based on latest ENSO conditions. So right now on the GFS model, let's kind of take a quick look at this because we want to look at what might be coming in the long term, or in the short term, in other words, throughout the next 16 or so days. As you know, we're going to see another reversal and weakening of the trade winds as the pressures there really get lower. And we can see that shaping up here on the GFS, lower than normal pressures there right around the international date line to the Eastern Pacific. What this means is the trade winds are going to be very weak to non-existent. We're going to have westerly wind bursts because of that reasoning, and that's going to help slosh the warm water from the Western Pacific into the Eastern Pacific and kickstart El Nino conditions even further. So we can see the pattern here really reflecting that by early May, showing a pretty healthy looking El Nino that looks to really shape up here by early May of 2023. So really quickly, what is El Nino and why is it important? Well, of course, during normal conditions, the trade winds blow during normal conditions in the Pacific Ocean, trade winds blow from west to east, taking a lot of the warm water South America towards Asia to replace that with warm water, and cold water rises from the deep depths of the ocean into the Peru area. But when we get in El Nino, you all, the trade winds slacken. Okay, the winds that blow from east to west relax, and they might reverse at times. So in other words, let's kind of do a quick zoom in here really quickly. I don't want this video to end up being too long, but you can see here the trade winds on this model are very weak across the equator. That allows this warm water to slosh eastward over time. And when that happens, we get that El Nino that typically develops. And when we get El Nino, this is your impacts, climatological speaking, for the United States. This doesn't mean it will happen every time, but this usually guarantees wetter than normal condition. Well, that is going to sum it up for today's ENSO forecast for April the 17th, 2023. If you did enjoy the video and the detailed update on this, please consider subscribing for more updates. I will have an update again next week. Every Monday, I work on doing these. So the next update will be released on April the 24th at around 8 or 9 in the morning Pacific Daylight Time. So make sure you have all notifications turned on. You subscribe to the channel for more updates on this, because this is quickly developing, and it is a good idea that we watch this very closely, because this could have a implication on the Atlantic hurricane season with lower than normal named storms and intensity wise, and we'll keep you all updated on that as we inch closer to the Atlantic hurricane season. That's going to do it, folks. Thank you all for watching.